We're about to go live.
We are live streaming.
And it's 6:30.
Okay, Mayor, it is 6:30.
I call this meeting to order for October 13th, 2020. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Richard Boss.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Nadia Sykes.
Here.
Commissioner Sharon McDonald.
Here.
Commissioner Josh Reardon.
Here.
Commissioner Susan Payne.
Here.
See you. Commissioner Dusty Wright.
Here.
Commissioner Jason Baldwin is not present. City Manager Brian Caesar.
Here.
City Attorney Patria Bengoshe.
Here.
Your clerk is present. Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Move on to the invocation and pledge of allegiance. The invocation will be given by Rachel Hughes, our city clerk, and the prayer will be given by Mayor Pro Tem Sykes. If everyone would please stand.
Dear Heavenly Father, we just come to you in prayer, just thank you, praising you, dear Lord, for this wonderful day. And we just thank you for being the Almighty and the All-Knowing. And we thank you because you are in control of tonight, tomorrow, dear Lord, and forever. And we just praise your name, dear God, for being good to us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Move on to approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Payne to approve the agenda. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Mayor Pro Tem Sykes. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We have 6 commissioners. 6-0. We'll move on to presentations. Our first presentation, number 1 is information requesting a reduction of lien amount owed for property located at 1801 Lamar Circle. And I believe we have Stephen Benenis, the property owner, present today.
Sir, he's not joined us yet. So if you want to move to the second one and see if he will join us.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll move to presentation number 2. Information requesting a second leak abatement for property on 1403 Oregon Avenue. Mark and Anthony Pryor, or either one or both here. That's okay.
I am here, sir.
Good evening. How are you? And who are you? I'm sorry.
I'm Mark Fulson.
Okay, Mark. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me, sir.
You can go ahead and make your presentation.
Okay. I just wanted to let you guys know I'm Mark Fulson. Actually, I'm a lieutenant colonel now in the Air Force. And actually, when I was a lieutenant, it was my first assignment after the Air Force Academy, being in Alamogordo. And I lived there for 3.5 years, fell in love with the community, the mountains, went to one of the local churches, Corinth Baptist Church there. And we've been property owners, me and my business partner, Anthony Pryor, for low income housing for this fourplex for 15 years now. And we're committed to the long-term, to the property and to the community. So I just want to let you guys know that, give you a little context of who I am. I do have 4 boys running around. My wife's doing a great job. So if you hear some extra foot stomping around, I apologize for any additional noise. But going back to the issue at hand is we had an abatement back in October, and you guys were very supportive, and gave us a approval for the 2 highest payments to waive the cost for that. Unfortunately, in the March timeframe, we had another massive leak, and we handled it immediately, spent about $4,500 getting it repaired by professionals. And we put in for the abatement based on our property manager's information, and your wonderful team has kind of shared with me that you guys have a policy that you mostly do one abatement per 12 calendar months. And we're just looking for opportunity for you guys to support us. And, we're a small company. We're trying to provide quality, high quality, low income housing. But every dollar that we spend, it's either to make the service and the client and the property better, or to try to take care of any bills that we have. And our bill's been about $200 a month for about 15 years now. And I did sign up for the online indications, but I didn't have it at the time. And there's a bill, not one of the ones I'm asking for forgiveness for, but one of the bills was like $700 before I got one of the massive bills. I think it was like closer to $1,000. That's when I was like, oh, wow, there's a problem. And we went to go search for the problem. So I did take the advice of your team and get the online monitoring applied. So we're just wondering if you guys should support us as we try to, continue to provide good housing in the community. If you guys can waive those two high bills, it'd really help us out a lot. Because obviously, we tried to handle it quickly as possible and did the long-term fix because we want to own the property long-term. I hope to bring the family down and do work trips and do some painting and freshening up the properties just to make the community even better. So that's why we just kind of want to at least ask you, Mayor, and the commission for your support and maybe a waiver to your normal policy. Unless there's any questions, that's really all I have, sir, and team.
Anybody have any questions?
I do, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Sykes.
Colonel Folsom, is it all the same property or was it different properties?
It is the same address, unfortunately, yes. Okay. Yeah, they were the two repairs were unrelated, unfortunately. So fixing the one, we spent top dollar on that one as well, but this was a different area in the pipes. I lived there for a while, so about the hard water and the caliche. So we had to learn some cool tricks to get the caliche off of the toilets and in the sinks and stuff like that. But unfortunately, they were same property, but unrelated, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I just have a question.
Commissioner Payne.
Mostly for Patria. This is just a presentation, so we can't really decide on anything anyway.
No,
Is that correct?
not an action item.
Right. Okay. I just wanted to be sure.
If I may make a comment, since we're all just sitting here, Colonel Folsom, I really appreciate what you're doing. One of the biggest needs in Alamogordo seems to be the type of housing where people can afford it, affordable housing. So thank you for doing everything you're doing. And we just want you to know that we appreciate your being here in Alamogordo and expressing the fact that you want to be here for the long term as well. So it's nice to have you here and thank you. And I guess we'll be deciding on what we're going to do for a later date.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate it, ma'am.
We
Go ahead,
think,
sir.
Evelyn or Stephanie, would you like to just explain that portion of the city policy to the commission and how really our hands are tied?
Sure. So the commission passed the most current iteration of the leak abatement in September of 2019. Section, I can't exactly which section it is. Section 2B1B says the city will allow only one customer side leak during any 12 consecutive months to be adjusted. So in the water department, we felt that was pretty straightforward. We appreciate Mr. Folson and everything he's doing, but he did have a leak abatement that has not been more than 12 months old. So that is the reason why his initial request to the water department was not approved. And since this is a commission approved policy, the department follows that policy as we're directed by the commission.
I totally understand. And I know Mr. Raridan did a good job of explaining to me that, I know me presenting my case is just giving you guys the information and it doesn't guarantee anything. I just figured, let me share my story. And, we totally understand whatever you guys can or cannot do. You know those limitations better than I do, and we just appreciate you hearing us out. And obviously, any help you can give us, we'll take. But well, I'll leave that to you guys. And we will be out there in November, the week of the 15th. My wife went to UCLA for interior design and architecture, so me and my business partner are gonna do a work trip to freshen up the property. So if you guys see us out there with ladders and want to say hello, you know, I consider you guys neighbors and stuff like that. And Sonia Roberts, like, she was my realtor, but I consider her like a good friend and stuff like that. So feel free to stop by the property and check it out, because we're hoping to, you know, elevate that low income property, low income housing, to make a quality product that people can be proud of and make memories there in Alamogordo.
Mark, thank you for your service to our country.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor, I got a question.
My pleasure, sir.
I don't know if this is a city manager question or Mr. Folsom, but exactly how much of it are we going to be writing off if we decide to do this? What dollar amount?
I believe it's $1,700, but if there's a finance person in the room that wants to sharpen that pencil, I think that's in the figure that we're in.
It's around 17.
Well, so
I believe so.
under the policy, Mr. Threadgill did the calculation for us to take the 12-month average, which by taking the 12-month average in this case also includes the usage from the first leak. His abatement would be $741.68 would be the amount that we would decrease by. And again, that's using the 12-month average per the current policy.
And is this is over 2 bills or 1 bill, or?
This would be the calculated leak abatement for the 2 months, which is the max per the policy.
I appreciate you clarifying, Mrs. Huff. When I talked to Mark, I thought it was going to be the 2 highest in that period of time. I didn't have this other calculation.
Okay. Do we still have that policy also that, you know, in the event the commission decides not to do anything with this, where they can spread that out over a 12-month period, like the payments?
So since he is a property owner, he would be able to spread that amount over a 6-month period. Yes.
6-month period. Okay.
6-month period. Yes.
Okay. All right.
And this is something that we will discuss in the act form at a later date.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions? No, thank you for your presentation tonight. And again, thank you for your service to our country.
Not a problem. You guys have a blessed night, and that's so awesome that you guys pray before you guys get started with your meetings. Keep that going.
Thank
You guys have a wonderful night. Take care.
You too. Thank you. We don't have the other.
Yes, he just.
Yes, Mr. Godinez has joined our meeting now.
Okay, then we'll go back to the presentation number 1, information requesting a reduction of lien amount owed for property located at 1801 Lamar Circle. And we have Stephen Godinez, I believe, is the property owner there.
Yes. Yes, that's me. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So, yes, all I'm requesting is a reduction in the invoice for the services that were performed on my property. One, I didn't know there was that code existed. I'm not contesting the code. I feel like, I really feel like I wasn't, there wasn't no due diligence in trying to contact me. I do live out of town. I live in Las Cruces. So I never received any warning letters or code letters. After speaking with one of the representatives there, I believe it was Patria, she verified a different address, an old address, of course. But I just feel like I conveniently received the invoice at the correct address. Yeah, just basically just a reduction in the invoice itself, because I've always had the yard done, even at times when it was just as bad as it was, and I never paid over a couple of $100. I just feel that the invoice that was given, I know I got a breakdown on what you all charged, but you know, $1,000 to do some yard work, I just feel is very, very, very high.
Does the commission want the notification history? I have it here and can provide it if you're interested in that.
Why don't you go ahead and do that?
Sure. So I have it all here. I believe some of it was included in the packet. On 1/29 of 2020, there was a notification of violation left at the home by Code Officer Tim Coles that does cite weed need to be removed from the property, curb to the center of the alley, have that here. We same day have a printout. It is dated 1/29/20 of an address in Las Cruces. I don't, for Mr. Godinez, I don't want to put that address on the record. This is a
Yeah,
recorded.
thank you. Thank you. We spoke about that.
Yeah, so I just so everyone else has the history. We got that address from the county assessor, which is the legal property mailing address. So we did go ahead and send a letter, which I have here, certified to that address. It was sent back, returned to sender, unclaimed. We went ahead then, waited the appropriate amount of time, and we completed the abatement in July. At some point, the address was changed on the county assessor. So code enforcement does go back and re-pull it before they send the bill. So what code did then is they sent the bill, and the bill was for 9/12/78 for the abatement and gross receipts tax. They did send that to the new address. When we didn't hear back saying, hey, if you don't pay it, we're going to go ahead and file a lien against the property. We didn't hear back. We did send another bill, then adding the $200 administrative fee on and filing the lien. And so that was sent to the new address because we did go back and re-pull it. Addresses change over several months, and that did include an entire cost sheet, and we have photos of the property as well. So that's the history of it. As far as the cost breakdown, that's more Chief Leclerc's area than mine.
Thank you.
Sure.
I got a
Anyone
question,
else?
Mr. Mayor. Did we sub out, like, did we have a contractor come and do this cleanup, or did the city do it? Who did it?
Our abatement officer completed the work. Let me pull up the sheet. I can tell you.
So a staff member did it?
A staff member did it. They went out, looks like a lot, like 18 hours of work. The weeds are, I have pictures of them. Unfortunately, they're black and white, so it's hard for me to hold them up and show them to you. But they were pretty good big bushels of weeds that were done. There was loads taken to the convenience center. It took them about, it looks like 18 hours. And Chief, if I'm reading this wrong, please stop me to do it. But 5 hours with the weed eater alone.
What is the total amount? I'm sorry.
The total amount on the cost sheet is $912.78. So that's equipment of $654, manpower of $214.56, which totals $869.31. And then we have that gross receipts tax of $43.47. And I believe again, Mr. Godinez, please stop me if I'm incorrect, but you're looking for about a half reduction here, correct?
Yeah, yes. And could I just add something as well?
Go ahead.
Absolutely.
Following to Patria's history, I did actually try reaching out. I spoke to the code enforcement person and pretty much said our hands are tied. We cannot do nothing. I did write a letter and I sent it to you, Mr. Mayor. It wasn't certified or anything, but I'm sure you got it. The U.S. mail is pretty well. I mean, works pretty well. So I did try reaching out, and I made a phone calls either, and I just didn't get any help anywhere.
Can I ask a question?
Commissioner Payne.
Maybe I heard this wrong, but you said that you've had this done before and it was a couple $100.
Yes.
Are you saying the city has done this before?
No. I've had it done
You're
on
saying
my own.
Privately. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And
So this property has never been written up before?
no.
Oh, okay.
Is this, Mr. Mayor, this particular property, is it on the corner of 18th and Lamar? It'd be the southeast corner of 18th and Lamar. Is that the property?
Yes. Yes.
Well, okay.
Actually, the northeast.
Or northeast, I'm sorry. Yeah, northeast.
Yes, the northeast.
Lamar. Okay.
Any other comments?
Staff like Brian or
Commissioner
Patria, is this all the information we have? Is this the bill? And is there any way we can see the pictures? And I mean, what all they hauled off? I mean, was it just weeds or was it a bunch of debris?
I believe Chief Leclerc has that for you.
Right.
Okay.
Chief Leclerc?
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Commission, Jim Leclerc, Fire Chief. I also have James Baker, Code Supervisor here. I have a short presentation I can show you if you would like that would actually give some detail in regards to what the property looked like and what it looked like after the job was actually finished, if you would like me to share that.
Absolutely.
I would,
Please.
yes.
Please.
Can you all see that?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. See, I'll try. Okay, so these photos were taken and the property was written up on 1/29/2020, just like Patria had talked about. This next photo is some more pictures that give you an idea what the property looked like. Let me increase it a little bit more so you guys can get a better idea. So the notification was made and certified letter was returned to the city of Alamogordo on March 12th, 2020 as unclaimed and unable to forward. Here's two photos of what that property actually looked like. Follow-up photos on June 3rd, 2020. There's another photo. Some more. This picture was taken just before the abatement. Same. These were taken just after the abatement. Normally, how we base the rental fees and how we basically put an invoice together, the code supervisor, James Baker, he assess what Home Depot, Lowe's Home Improvement, and other rental companies charge in town, and that's how we base our fees. So in regards to the way we put a invoice together, that's where we get those numbers from. And normally they're a little bit cheaper than the average.
And then plus there's also the $200 administrative fee, I think.
Yes, sir.
Can I ask
Jim.
another question, Mayor?
Yes, who is that?
Payne.
Oh, Commissioner Payne?
Mr. Godinez, can you tell me, were you in town at all during the first 6 months of this year? Had you been to that property?
Very rarely, odd enough.
Okay. And you never saw a notice on the door,
I did not know.
but you did see how bad it was, because by the pictures you can see it was pretty bad. I think we can all agree on that, right?
Yeah, and I did. I mean, I still know people who live there. They told me like, hey, your yard's getting bad, and I believe I went out there just probably a couple of days after it was done, and so I was baffled to see that and didn't know how it got done.
Okay, so let me just clarify, Chief. The first notice was sent when?
On January 29th, 2020.
And the property was cleaned up when?
In
July, right? Did I see July
July.
6th or
Yes,
something?
ma'am.
Okay, so Mr. Godinez, I'm sure you can understand from January to July, that's 6 months, almost 6 months, am I 6 months, right? Six
Yeah,
months, right? And you're saying that you were there on and off, and I think we can all agree also that it didn't get that way overnight. So over a course of 6 months, you never, it doesn't appear that you made an effort to clean the property up, and you're saying that you showed up just a few days after. I mean, and we talk about coincidence, and I'm not saying it didn't happen, but you're saying you showed up just a few days after it was cleaned up and you were very surprised to see it cleaned up. I guess I would say if I were a neighbor in that neighborhood, I would want to look at that for 6 months, and I'm a little baffled that you were back and forth for 6 months and it never occurred to you that that property needed to be cleaned.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't think that's a whole 6 months worth of weeds. I mean, I know I got it done at least once before.
Well, and all, just in full disclosure, I have a family member that lives in that neighborhood, and I recognized the property when I saw the pictures, and I can tell you it was like that for a very long time.
Yeah, yeah.
A very, very long time. Yeah. And so that wasn't something that happened overnight. It wasn't something that was just there a little while. Honestly, sir, that was there quite a while.
Mr. Mayor, I got a question.
Commissioner Redden.
For Jim, as far as the rentals, you said for his equipment, what do we got to rent? Like weed eaters and trailers, or?
So we, Commissioner Reardon, we don't actually rent those, but basically what we do is all of those tools have been purchased by the Code Enforcement Division. And so when we actually use them, we actually charge rental fees to the property that we're actually abating.
Okay, and then, I understand where the city's place is on this, but 18 hours to cut a front and a backyard seems excessive to me. I do this kind of stuff for a living. Did he dedicate himself full days when we had our code guy do it, or did he an hour here and then go somewhere else and come back an hour? You know what I mean? Because I know they're busy. Right. Was he dedicated to it, or was it, a little bit here, a little bit there?
No, I asked the same question. So basically he was dedicated to that property until it was actually finished.
Okay. It's like say 18. I mean, I got almost a full acre out here at my place, and I can weed eat that in about 2 or 3 hours, and there are times I'm kind of embarrassed, but there are times mine look like that in the front, where, because they've gotten out of hand. But okay, I was just wondering about the rentals and stuff. That just seemed a little 600, and I think you said 659 seems a little excessive for a weed eater and a trailer. And property very well. I did a project right across the street over there, kind of catty corner from it, and it did look bad, but like I said, in the times we're in, I kind of understand to some extent. So.
Any other comments? Okay, how are we going to move forward on this? It's not an action item.
So
we can consider this and put it on next agenda and decide.
if it's the will of the commission this hasn't come to my level yet. I did hear about it obviously before the meeting and know a few more of the details. Normally, as these things progress, it gets to the legal department, legal contacts me, we go over it. I can work with the city attorney, Chief Leclerc, go back, review the cost sheet or the invoice, and work with the property owner. Cannot guarantee that it would be cut in half, but we can take a serious look at the invoicing and see if there is any wiggle room on this one.
Mr. Mayor, on that, just to put that out there, if it was $659, you could actually purchase 3 weed eaters for the cost of that.
I understand, and Commissioner Reardon, I hear you, and I'm
Yeah.
agreeing with you when I'm thinking about the size of it. I think it does seem a little high.
Well,
to me
that would be
also.
one of the things that would be looked at. I mean, obviously, you all know I come from a public works background, and what we use and continue to use
Froze up.
cost rates.
Might look at that.
We went away from the rental. Well, they're definitely higher than FEMA rates.
Yeah, look at that, and maybe also the
That
$200
also.
administrative fee. That's a pretty high fee, it seems to me, but I guess that's.
I just have one
Look
more
at that,
question.
too.
Just one
Mr.
more
Bennett.
question. Oddly enough, my husband used to be in the landscaping business many years ago, so I can at least talk a little landscape, a little cleaning up, right? But Chief LeClaire, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it took a little more than a weed eater to clean it up, didn't it?
We had actually a pickup truck there, a dump trailer, a weed eater. I would have to take another look at the invoice itself, but yeah, there was more equipment there than just a weed eater.
Right. I just want to clarify that. It's not like we just went through with a weed eater and whacked all the weeds down, because I know some of the growth there, I don't think can be even cut by a weed eater. I think it's a little too much. And so, it was pretty high, Commissioner Reardon, for whatever it's worth. Those weeds or whatever you want to call them were pretty high. I'm
agree with you.
saying that I think that there was a little more than just a weed eater. And it's not that I want to be argumentative, but I do think that we have to be careful sometimes about setting a precedent, because at some point, we have to say our policy, our ordinance is our ordinance. And while I completely agree with working with homeowners, I do think that we have to be fair to the neighbors around too, and to have to look at that for 6 months.
I understand
Whatever.
completely.
So.
I understand completely, but we also are nonprofit, and we're not in the business to make money off of people like that. We go in there and provide the service, give it to them for cost. And, and the place is a mess. Like I said, I did a project right around the corner, kind of catty corner from there, and it has been a mess for some time. But like I say, given this year, the times we're in, and like I say, a straight shaft weed eater with a blade on it will cut through 1.5 inches. You could cut a tree down with it. You can buy those at Home Depot all day long for $200.
I get it. My point is, though, it wasn't just going in with the weed eater. It was hauling all of that off, right? And it was taking it to the dump. It was fuel charges. It was our manpower. We still have to pay somebody to go in there and clean it. It was all of those things. And I get that I don't necessarily think that we made any money off of this. I think that we are trying to recoup our costs. And that's my only point. We're obviously not going to make a decision tonight, but I would like to point that out, because I think it's important that, one of the biggest things that I do, and I'm sure most of my fellow commissioners, probably the most calls I get are on code issues. For my district, for other districts, we all get them. And so we can all see, this is a problem, right? Because we get these calls all the time. And so I just, in my mind, I'm saying, okay, so when does it stop? If we have to call somebody in to clean it because the homeowner isn't cleaning their property, when do we decide, are we going to waive this every time? Because we will be setting a precedent. So that's my only thing. And we have left it up to our city manager. We made that decision a while ago. And so obviously this will be up to Brian, but I guess, all I can say is in the future, Mr. Cardenas, really keep an eye on that property, because it's important. You've got neighbors around there, and that's not what they want to look at. And we have an ordinance, and we're trying to keep our city clean also. So,
I understand.
About that. Yeah.
I understand. And like I said in the beginning, I never knew there was an ordinance. I'm not arguing that it doesn't exist, but that's just excessive. The whole thing is just excessive. I don't think any of you have paid $1,000 to have any yard work like that done in your homes. So that's all. It's just excessive invoice. That's all. That's why I need a reduction. I can't pay that.
Oh, well, if there's no other comments or questions, I guess we'll leave it up to Brian. Brian, you can, on the next commission meeting, you will come back with a recommendation to us. Is that correct? As a result of this presentation?
If you would like it brought back to commission, or staff can just handle it.
Staff,
And if it's,
I think
we
staff
can
should
work with
handle
Mr. Godinez, and if it's not acceptable to Mr. Godinez, sorry, I'm messing up your name, Godinez, then we can bring it back to commission as an action item. But I think we can resolve it.
Okay. So we'll go there. So any other questions or comments? If not, we'll move on then. And Mr. Godinez, thank you for your presentation.
Okay. Thank you all. You have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Move on to public comment. Rachel, do we have any public comment for this evening?
No, sir, there was no public comment.
Okay, thank you. City Manager's Report. Brian Caesar. Brian, you're up.
Okay, I have 3 quick things, and I'm going to try and do them really quickly because for some reason I keep dropping out and it's kicking me out of the meeting. I'm not sure why. So we sent out a PSA earlier today about the Zubu and Halloween activities. And shortly after that PSA went out, the governor's office, Department of Health, sent out some new guidelines. That's actually a couple days early from how she normally does that. She still is having a press conference on Thursday, and in her additional orders for today, in that notification, talked about further restrictions if numbers didn't improve. So I believe that more than likely we're going to see additional restrictions on Thursday. So in the PSA that went out, we did reference the Thursday conference, and depending upon orders, things may change. At this point, the only change to the PSA that went out for the movie event on the 30th at Bedland Ramps, the same place where the concert was held, it was 10 people to a space. The governor today reduced that to 5 people. So as of right now, that's the only change to the PSA that went out. In a little better news, so recently, Otero County, they were the fiscal agent for some CARES Act money to go out to local businesses if they applied for the monies and qualified. I just got word this morning that Downtown Venture Corporation, Jay Chun, the Family Fund Center, he was awarded. So now he cannot open up the business at this point because you still can't have the bowling and the laser tag, and there's the restrictions on indoor dining at a certain percentage. So it just would not be profitable for him to open it up at this point. But with that funding that he received, that's going to go a long way to helping him reopen the doors when the orders are lifted, or lifted to a point where he can open up.
Brian, can you say that again? You cut out. How much was he awarded?
$100,000 is the word that I received.
Very good.
Good.
And last but not least, one of the local charities donated a lot of office supplies to the city of Alamogordo. And in times of where we're having issues with our budget, just like to thank Love Inc., Susan Payne, Commissioner Payne, for thinking about the city and some of the struggles that we're having stretching our budgets. And
I tried to get them to take more and they wouldn't do it.
That was a whole pickup load full of stuff.
Wow, thank you, Susan.
You're welcome. That was a big shout out to Walmart. I have to say, Walmart was very generous to Love Inc. And I called them up. I said, I've got supplies, you need to come get them. I don't think that they believed me until they got there. So yeah, we're still looking for people to give them out to. That's a whole other story for another day though. So
Good deal.
And that's all I have.
Brian, thank you. Move on to remarks and inquiries by the City Commission. Do any of the commissioners have any comments?
I got one.
Mayor Pro Tem Sykes.
Just very briefly, based on the presentation of the gentleman from Lamar Circle, I've heard other people say that, and it could be an excuse, it could be reality, that they don't know about the ordinances, that they're not familiar with the ordinances. A lot of people say they're not familiar with the one-time leak abatement as well. So it's just something to think about. Maybe get it, and I know we're pretty diligent about putting that information into the city profile and on the website, but if we could possibly do it more often or in red letters or something, just so people are aware of the fact that we do indeed have ordinances and that they need to be followed. So just something to think about based on the presentations this evening.
Stephanie is listening right now, so she can get with Michelle and we'll get some more of those PSAs out and try and roll them out. We do get it in the newsletter that goes out with the water bill quite often, but we'll get it out on the other platforms as well.
Thank you. Thank you, City Manager.
Got a comment, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Reardon.
I was just gonna see manager down there on White Sands Boulevard at 2nd and White Sands. Is there any way we could get with DOT and ask them if they can fix that? I don't know if any, my pull my camper or my trailers or whatever. There's a very, very large depression in the road right at the corner of 2nd and White Sands Boulevard. It's been there for numerous years. And I think the city's actually dug it up at one time. Obviously something's going on underneath the ground right there, but it's starting to kind of migrate over into the inner lane there. Used to, it was just in the outer lane all the way against the curb, but it feels like it's starting to migrate into the inner lane. If we could get with DOT out there and either get them to fix it or get permission for us to look at it and what's going on there. And then there was another one. Where was I at? I'll have to get with you tomorrow on that one, Brian. There was another one. It's on 10th Street, right by Walgreens, east of the railroad tracks, between White Sands Boulevard and the railroad tracks. There's a very, very large depression forming right there. It'd be in the eastbound lane, outer lane, kind of as you get to Walgreens there.
Okay.
If
we'll take care of it.
We could look at those two or those few.
Yep.
If we can figure out what's going on.
We'll take care of
There's
it.
a problem with both of them.
I think there's a manhole actually right by the one by Walgreens, so it may be a sewer main or something leaking or something.
That one, the sewer manhole, that I know that one has been addressed. We may have an issue with a fire hydrant, something else settling, so we'll look into it and take care of it.
Could be, and it's right there where that detention pond is for Walgreens, and then every time it rains, we get 18 to 24 right there. So
Yeah.
But okay, yeah, if we could look into those two, I'd appreciate it.
Yep, we'll take care of it.
Thank you.
Any other comments? If not, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Would any staff or commissioner like to pull any item off of the consent agenda? If not, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as stated?
I
Mr. Mayor,
move that we approve the consent agenda as stated.
I have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Sykes to approve the agenda, items 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second from Commissioner Wright. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Nadia Sykes,
Aye.
Josh Reardon,
Aye.
Sharon McDonald,
Aye.
Dusty Wright,
Aye.
Susan Payne,
Aye.
Richard Voss.
Motion passes 6-0. Move on to new business. Item 8, appointments to boards and committees. We have, I'm going to go over all of our committees here. It's just be brief. The Airport Advisory Board, there's one vacancy. The vacancy is due to the expiring term of Jeff Rabin. The staff liaison out there is Cheryl Baker. Jeff Rabin has requested to be reappointed, and this will be his 7th term. I would like to thank Jeff if he's on tonight, which he may or may not be, for that's a long time on that board. We appreciate that service to our community. And if there's no objection, I'm going to reappoint Jeff Rabin to that position for his 7th term. He is so appointed. Airport Zoning Board, we have one city vacancy. The vacancy is due to the expired term of David Sword. The staff liaison on that is Cheryl Baker. There's no applications received on that board. The Cemetery Board, we have one city or county vacancy. The staff liaison is Tony Gonzalez. There's no applications received there. Housing Authority Advisory Board, we have one 2-year vacancy and one 3-year vacancy. Staff liaison is Marisa Ruiz. No applications received there. If anyone is interested in any of those positions on those boards, you can contact the city clerk's office at the city of Alamogordo. If there's no other business for the good of the city, I would entertain, or do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
I heard a bunch of them. I saw Commissioner Payne. Commissioner Payne, we have a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
I second.
I have a second from Commissioner McDonald. All those in favor, aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Good night, everyone. We are adjourned.